Okay, so I'm pleased to say we've got Martyn Joseph joining us now before his show this evening in King's Place. Hi, Martyn.
Hey, Howard, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. It's great to speak to you.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome, and you must be looking forward to the show tonight.
Yeah, very much so. I've never played King's Place in Camden. I played the Jazz Cafe in Camden,
Yes.
and probably a few other places, but
Yes.
I've never played in King's Palace before, so looking forward to that.
Yes, it should be a good show, and I believe it's a sold-out show as well.
Yeah, it is, which is always a nice feeling, yeah.
Yes. Now, you're making your way down today, I believe, from Wales, because you were born there, and is that where you still live today?
Yeah, I still live in South Wales, and so we usually tour. We do Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or maybe Thursday to Sunday. And this is a run this week, so obviously I end up home. Sometimes I'll drive home after the show on the Sunday, and then head away again on the Thursday or the Wednesday. So head up from South Wales today. It's only about 3 hours really from where I live to the heart of the capital. So
Yes.
no problem.
What's the traffic been like? Has it been okay today?
Yeah, no problem at all. We had a bit of snow where I was.
Yeah.
Once I got out of the hills, it was fine.
Yeah. Now, so, yeah, as we mentioned there, you were born in Wales, and I believe quite close to Cardiff, is that right?
Yeah, a little town called Penarth was where I was brought up, which is just outside of Cardiff, between Cardiff and Barry, yeah.
Yes. And would you say that your upbringing in Wales, did that very much have an influence on the music you got into?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, like any other teenager, in the 70s, we were Top of the Pops was our main go-to for our music feed. It's not like it is these days when it's absolutely everywhere. But
Yes.
but it was funny, because when I was a kid, we used to go down to my grandparents' house every Sunday to tea, and my grandfather had a mini grand piano which he used to try and show me how to play. But he was the one with the record collection. And amongst that record collection, he would have records by a kind of a comedian folk singer called Max Boyce. I don't know if you're familiar with Max Boyce, but he's well known for his sort of rugby songs and comedy, but he also had some very poignant songs about mining, because his father was a miner. One was called Dew, It's Hard, Dew being the Welsh word for God, and another one called Ron the Grey, which was about a little boy coming home from school, and he had to paint the valley and what colour was the valley and all that sort of stuff. And I remember really loving these quite melancholic songs about mining, and I didn't know much about it at that time, but I think something of that stayed with me, and the Welsh are known for their sort of there's a Welsh word called hiriaeth, which means basically attachment to and love of the land, and I feel that melancholy quite a bit, and that has come through certainly in the last 20 years. I was signed to Sony in the early 90s, and they were trying to I guess make me into a pop star or something, but I've always had a social narrative, especially the last 20 years, that has come through, and I think looking back on it, the answer to your question is probably yes.
Yes, that makes sense. And I believe, and I guess this probably came from the area you grew up in, you're very much into the outdoors and nature, would that be right?
I enjoy getting out. I mean, I live in a part of Wales that I'm surrounded by beautiful hills and fantastic walks. But also my other kind of love in life was, believe it or not, was golf. It's not very rock and roll, but my early ambitions were to become a professional tournament golfer, and so I've always I've still enjoyed playing that and play to a decent standard. So I'm either walking in the hills or I'm ploughing the fairways.
Yes, I believe you used to win tournaments, so you maybe could have had a career as a golfer if you hadn't gone.
I won some as an amateur, but I could have been a club pro, but I wanted to be on the tournament circuit, and I wasn't good enough for that. I know that now. So but I still love the game, and I still love to play that. And that's an escape for me. Enter into a quite different world.
I guess it's nice to have that as an escape, because I know a lot of artists do say that, particularly after coming off the back of a heavy concert touring schedule, it's nice to have something to do that's different, such as that.
Yeah, and it's a good walk, and obviously not always in a straight line. So it's a good 5-6 mile walk, and you get out there in all sorts of weather, and it's always been something that I did. And my dad passed away about a month ago, but my dad and I, that was our connection. We would go out and play golf together. We did that all our lives, So.
Yes. Oh, we're sorry to hear about that. And
thank you.
Yes, I guess maybe music is a help at such a time, is it?
Well, absolutely. I mean, my last album was called 1960, and my father had Alzheimer's for some 7 to 8 years, and I kind of deal with that subject matter within some of the album.
Yes.
So yeah, I think music is always. The guitar is a good cheap therapist.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Now, as we were speaking of earlier, you have been doing albums for a long time now, since about 1983, so you're on around 30 albums, is that right, now?
It's about 32 studio albums, I think, or maybe, no, sorry, it's about 25, 26 studio albums, and then way into the 30s with live albums and other sort of compilations and working with other people,
Yes. Your latest album, was that, it came out in about 2020, is that right?
It came out late in 2021.
Okay, yes. Was that the Days of Decision?
No, that was just a tribute album to a guy called Phil Oakes.
Okay.
Who was a renowned folk singer in America in the 60s and 70s. And I met his sister. And actually, I opened up for the band Clannad in Boston in 1993, and I got reviewed by the Boston Globe and said I was a profound experience, a little bit Phil Oakes-ish, and I thought, who the hell is Phil Oakes? So I looked him up and sort of discovered his music. It's beautiful, incredible narrative songwriting, and then I met his sister a few years ago, and we became friends. And Phil sadly took his life a long time ago, and she asked if I'd be interested in recording some of his songs. So I did that. So that was one of the sort of filler projects I sometimes do in between albums. But no, the last album was called 1960, which was the year I was born. And during lockdown and COVID, I sort of took time to lay aside some of my sort of more political leanings and social leanings within songs to write a more personal record about, it was 40 years since I started making albums, and just, with Dad's demise into dementia, just taking stock, and I became a grandfather, etc. All those things that make you suddenly think, my goodness, what's that? It's all happened so quick, and so it's a much more reflective record. And this tour that I'm on now will be the second tour we've done with it, so it'll be the end of this tour, of that album as such, in terms of the new album, and I'll be going into the studio again. So
the album, is it exclusively influences from the 1960s, or what's the?
No, it's only 1960 because that's the year I was born. So that's that. So it was because I was just taking stock and everything. I don't know. I just thought it's an interesting album title, and because there's a song on there that talks about lying in the backseat of my dad's car in 1965, going on a camping trip with my family and stuff, and so the more I thought about it, as I said, it was written in 2020, so I'd become 60. 1960, I was born, etc. So it was just a few things that fell into place, and I just thought it was an interesting album title to just had to have when my earthly journey began there. So I thought, well, let's go with that.
That makes sense. So the theme is 60s, but in terms of musical influences, it's I guess would be everything from over the years that you've.
Well, I guess so. Well, I mean, my genre is, I play guitar because I play a lot of, most of my shows are, literally always solo.
Yes.
Then to make the guitar sound like a band in many ways, with a lot of, intricate guitar playing and stuff. So, but the album itself has, other instruments on it and orchestration as well too. I wanted to put some flesh on the music a little bit that you can do with a studio record.
Yes.
But there are my influences. A lot of my influences as a musician happened in the 70s. When I discovered, Jackson Browne and Springsteen and Crosby, Stills, Nash and Joni Mitchell and stuff. So I suppose some of the music's in that spirit for sure, but then it probably would be anyway.
Yes, that makes sense. Now, in terms of you mentioned there are some artists that you've worked with before. You supported quite a range of artists. I'll just go through some of them here. Chris de Burgh, Mark Cohen, Joan Armatrading, Art Garfunkel and Suzanne Vega. So you've had experience to be on tour with quite a lot of different musicians there.
Yeah, well, that came about when I was signed to Epic, and as I say, the Sony Music, CBS Records when I signed to them, they became Sony, and obviously that was the biggest label in the world, and probably still is, I don't know, but and they put me out on tour with artists like that. I toured with Celine Dion for a couple of months at one point, which is a strange match. But it's it was just a way of getting in front of a fresh audience, and because I was able to make that happen with just me and the guitar, then I was the artists themselves enjoyed the support out in the sense that there was no big fuss and attention. It wasn't another band on stage; it was just me and the guitar before the star came on. So, but it was good, and I met a lot of people through that, and working with watching those other artists was an interesting experience, and I might write a book one day. My life as a special guest or something. It's still all the things.
Yes. You mentioned there that you had been signed to Sony originally, but in more recent times, I believe you set up your own record label. Is that right?
Yeah, I've had that hard for many years now. I think I formed my own label back in about 95, 96. And it was an interesting time because I did 2 albums with Sony, and then they dropped me, and I suppose their expectation was at that point is that, of course, that's it, you've had your chance or whatever. And I don't mean that in a nasty way. They did everything they could. They were trying to sell millions of records, and I sold a decent number, but not that amount. But the thing was, just because I would stop making records with them, it didn't mean that I didn't have an audience. I did, and I took those people with me. The internet was just becoming a real power, as such. So took advantage of that, mailing lists and all that sort of stuff, and I've just built up a healthy following now around what I do. I still play the hundreds, not thousands, but I've got a regular audience globally, actually, because I tour Europe and North America, and I've been able to, do something that I love to do for the whole of my life, and hopefully do a little bit of good as we go along the way. We also have a foundation called the Let Yourself Trust that runs alongside my music. We work with grassroots organizations. We swap every 6 months and find another program to work with, and we've been doing that for 8 years. So we've got 16 organizations we've supported and given away over £500,000 in those 8 years, and we haven't had a grant off anybody. That money is purely come from the audience that comes to my shows and surrounds the guitars, the community that surrounds it. So we it just goes to show that you don't need to have the big machine behind you to actually go out and do what you want to do.
Yes, I guess it must be a nice way around to have done it, because you got some exposure with the big label early on, but then later on you've been able to have more creative control.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I'm at pains not to diss Sony, because I had a great time with them. And, if they knocked on my door tomorrow, I would probably say, "Yep, let's go again." But I'm grateful that the chance they gave me, and they were good people, and we ran for about 3 or 4 years together, and it was great. And but when that stopped, that wasn't me going to stop. I just carried on and carried on building. Did
you have that in mind, that if it wasn't going to be several years with Sony, that you thought, right, I'm going to, was that always in your mind that you would continue to do it?
No, it wasn't in my mind at the time, because I was just, I was dedicated to them, and they were doing their best, and we were in the midst of that, and it was the most exciting time. Yes. When I signed with CBS in 1990, I think it was winter 91, and then the first single came out in 92. That was the most exciting time, career-wise, really, of my life, and I'm very grateful that I carry on and I get to do this all the time. But in terms of rush and thinking, oh my gosh, this is amazing, that was the moment for me, And so I wasn't at that point thinking, well, if this doesn't work, I'll carry on. I was just doing my best to make it happen then. But when it did stop, there might have been a moment thinking, well, what do I do now? But it didn't take long for me to realise that I'm pretty rubbish at everything else, and this is what I do best, and people seem to like it. So why stop? And let's just find a way forward. And as I said, with the online world opening up to everybody, it was good timing. It was,
yes, because mid-90s was when that was all happening, and getting bigger, certainly. Yeah. Now, you touched on it earlier, but charity support is very much part of what you like to get involved with, supporting such charities as Amnesty International and Christian Aid. So has that been for a long time that you've been supporting charities as part of your...
Well, yeah, it is. Yes, I started, my first time was back in 1987, I think it was. I was 27 years old, and I wasn't, this was way before the Sony thing, and I was taken to Thailand by an organisation called Tear Fund, who showed me some of the poverty there, and just asked me to write songs about that, and that it was also a very sort of educational trip, because until you actually sit with powerless people in a powerless situation, in a situations where they are powerless, you don't quite grasp it. We can read about it and even see it on TVs, but I was blessed with the good fortune to see some of this stuff, and it had a profound effect on me, because making me realize how fortunate I am and how fortunate we are, really, in many, many ways. So that just changed things at a young age, and I thought I had a handful of answers to life at that point, and I realized I didn't. And so what I did was I put all those answers down and picked up a handful of questions instead, and then I've been running with that ever since. The social narrative has always played a big part in my music since then.
Yes.
And continues to do that, and so we just I love finding out that we as I say, we only work with those small guys. We don't work with big organizations. Nothing against them, but there's a lot of husband and wives, just small groups of people who are doing amazing work, but they don't get enough publicity, which we give them publicity too, and of course they don't get enough funding, so we give them quite large amounts of money, really, in terms of what they're used to, but they're so transparent in terms of how they spend that money, so nothing gets wasted. And I think people are inherently generous, so if I tell people, look, I found this over there, and they're doing this, whatever it is, like our latest project is helping an organisation who are helping women refugees in Greece who landed on the shores. They're often pregnant and without husbands and fleeing war zones, and etc. And this is happening. When people say, "Well, I know my money's going to go to good use," you can have some of that, So people are, I think, wary of their money being wasted. But once you show them that actually that's not going to happen, then people are very, readily wanting to put money, their hands into their pockets, and even if it's a tenner, you make sure that tenner gets to the situation, and that's wonderful.
Yes, I guess if people have more transparency as to where the money is going, then
exactly, that's the thing. And if we here's the other thing, Howard. I suppose as a musician, it's different from I like an ad on TV or whatever it might be, because people build up a relationship with you if they come to a lot of your shows, or that like anyone does, So you tend to trust and have that bond with between the artist and the audience and the listener. So once they've got on board and realised that you're genuine and that you mean it, they tend to trust you that what you're saying is the truth, and that's a responsibility for sure. But it's also a beautiful thing, because we can do a lot of good with that.
Yes. Now, I guess your audience is maybe quite varied. Is it from different walks of life and different ages?
Yeah, certainly. I'm 62 now. I don't know how that happened, but I still, so obviously there's a lot of people are probably over 50, 60. It's like anybody, as you get older, your audience gets older. But I still get students and sons and daughters of my audience who come along, and they always love it. I have fantastic reactions from young people, when they come up afterwards and tell me how much they enjoyed it, and then they get into the music and how do I play that on the guitar and all that sort of stuff. So I'm very fortunate that I think what I do seems to go across a broad spectrum of people, but obviously my main audience are a little older now than it once was.
Yeah. Now, a couple of musicians I've thought maybe you're a little bit like. You can maybe see if you agree. One would be John Denver, and another would be Mark Knopfler.
I suppose so. Mark Knopfler is one of not far off my favourite guitar player of all time. Just in terms of the extraordinary tone that I believe he has. Just a gorgeous tone, and just such a phenomenal player and great dexterity, and just so tasteful in many ways. And I love Mark's songwriting. John Denver would have been an early influence. I remember watching him live at the London Palladium, and my dad taped it on the VHS videotape thing and playing that many times, because I loved the fact that he was just him and the guitar.
Yes.
Which is obviously the road I've gone down, and certainly Martin Knopfler as such in terms of guitar, John Denver in an earlier way, but because then I discovered and also Glenn Campbell too. I would put Glenn Campbell alongside the John Denver thing, and then alongside Martin Knopfler I would echo Springsteen and of course Dylan, and I'm drawn to that narrative of North American songwriters who tend to wear their hearts on their sleeves a little more than the Brits do. We're very good at bringing you the latest fashion in music, but don't ask us to show emotion. So I like the fact that they bleed a little more than we do in a different way sometimes, and I like that that emotion.
Yes. Speaking of Bob Dylan, we did have Martin Carthy on the show just at the end of last year. He'd just been doing a show at Green Note in Camden Town, and I guess that's somebody who must be an influence as well.
Martin, it's interesting because I learned about the British folk tradition through going to America first. Right? I didn't know much about the sort of British, and then obviously I play quite a few of the folk festivals now in the UK, so I picked up on Martin Carthy some years ago, but not so much, when I was growing up. But certainly I have met him once, and he was a lovely man, and it's incredible, his influence and his passing on of the tradition and influencing people like Paul Simon, and so just beautiful.
Yes. Now, it should be a great show tonight in King's Place, London, and after tonight, you're going on a bit of a tour. I've got the dates here. You've got Leeds, Bury, Liverpool. So you've a few shows coming up after tonight?
Yes, and Southampton this week. That's Friday, and then we go back home, and then we've got another week, and then we finish at the St David's Hall in Cardiff on February the 7th.
Right, so a home gig.
Homecoming, to wind it all up.
Yes, I guess you must like playing to your home city.
It's great, because I have quite a few songs that are about Wales, so I can put them on the set list and get the old hairy ice and the old passion flow in there, and people singing along. I like to get people singing with me too, so that's great.
Does that tend to happen at your shows? Are people often?
It does. But there are certain songs that lend themselves to that, and I encourage it. I always feel, Howard, that there's a great potential on any night that people gather around music, and I feel that, and the responsibility of it. The fact that people have bought a ticket, put it on their fridge or whatever it might be. I'm grateful that pays my bills. So I want to make sure we have some fun. I also want to make sure we touch on some of the more sort of serious sides of things too. That so people go away with a skip in their step, thinking, you know what, I can do this. That's what I feel my job is really every night.
And one of the things I always think you get with music that is of folk style or that has influences from folk is you get the spontaneity on a night that no one night is the same.
That's right. No, and I tend to vary my set list every night because I get bored otherwise.
Yes.
So I tend to change things up, and it keeps me fresh. And someone will shout out, will you play so and so, whatever. So it's a very fluid thing for me. The set list. I don't want to stand there every night and just do the same thing. That would become boring very, very quickly.
And you mentioned you've done some live albums there, which I guess must lend themselves well to the fact you've done a unique performance.
We put live albums out sometimes, or I put tracks up on my Patreon page and different things. So a lot of spontaneity, but I can do it that easy because it's me and the guitar. So if I was with a band, unless it's the E Street Band, and they know you so well, and they need, I can just change direction anytime I like and start to decide that I'm going to play something I haven't played for 5 years or whatever. But
you've got a very interesting concert coming up in British Columbia, I believe, in Canada in April.
I'm going to Canada. There's only we put the gig gigs in as they come in. It'll be that if I'm going to count it, that'll usually be about 18, 20 dates. So
right.
we just put the first one up, I guess, whatever that is. But yeah, no, I tour there every year and sometimes play there at festivals, which are wonderful in the summer too. So I love Canada. Fantastic.
Yes, I guess it'll be a good opportunity to go out walking a little bit as well whilst you're there.
Plenty of that, especially British Columbia. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. Well, we look forward to the show tonight, and I'm sure the audience can't wait because it is sold out tonight. If anybody has missed out on seeing the show tonight, have you plans to come back to London or even Camden Town later this year?
I usually sort of play somewhere up here. We'll play. It might be slightly outside of London, sort of Reading, or we actually played Reading on this tour earlier on, but yeah, not far. I mean, if folks go to my website martynjoseph.net, that's Martin with a Y, by the way, not an I.
Oh yes.
Otherwise, you get a lawyer in Dallas or something.
Oh, right.
But there's always those things are always popping up, and there's plenty of stuff on YouTube for people to take a look at too, if you want to know what it's all about. But yeah, no, I'm always I gig a lot, so it'd be lovely to meet some new people as a result of this interview. But I'm very grateful for it anyway. Thank you.
Well, thanks very much, Martin, for joining us on the show today. We wish you the best with the upcoming show tonight at King's Place, and the best with the upcoming tour.
Thank you very much, Howard. It's been a pleasure. Hi, this is Martyn Joseph from Wales on Camden Town Radio. Keep rocking.